We'll start chanting the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhushtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanutam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanatansha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminit Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtashe Namaha He Krishna Gavarna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Priya Mancha Kalpatarudhyasya Kritasindhubhe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So for this book Sri Updeshamrita or Nectar of Instruction, what we can do is in the beginning of every session, we can recite the 4 verses that you are supposed to memorize for the exam. That can also serve as a Mangalacharan for the sessions, and you can also get the practice of reciting those verses. So the text 1, which we are going to discuss today and tomorrow, it is similar to verse 2.7 of Bhagavad Gita, Karpanya Dosho Bahata Sabhagaha. It has 11 syllables in each pada or each line of the text and is of the meter called Trishtup. And then the text 2, 3, and 4, they are Anushtup Chanda with 8 syllables in each of the lines, and which is the most common meter in Bhagavad Gita, like Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta, Vyutsavaha, like that, right? So we can chant the first 4 verses of Updeshamrita every session in the beginning. Let me share the screen with all of you. So the first verse is, Vacho vegam manasah krodha vegam Jivva vegam mudaro pastha vegam Etan veganyo vishaheta dhiraha Sarvam apimam prithiving sashishyat. So that's the way to chant the first one. Then we go to the second one. Just as a very long purport, that's why we take 2 days to discuss this. The second one talks about 6 things unfavorable. Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyam agraha janasangascha lolyam cha shadbhir bhaktir vinashyati utsaha nishchayat dhairyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. 4th, dadati pratigrihnati guhyamakhyati prichhati Bhungte bhojayate chaiva shadvidham priti lakshanam. So the verses are not that difficult to memorize. In fact, it is prescribed that one can memorize all the 11 verses given in this book, Updeshamrita, and make a necklace and put that necklace around one's neck. And then every day remember these verses, just like we remember Sri Chaitanya Shishashtakam every day. So we are starting in text 1 today. As you have seen, it has a long purport. Now this text 1 of Updeshamrita, what does it talk about? It talks about qualities of a Goswami, characteristics of a Goswami. Goswami means one who has controlled one's senses. So it doesn't necessarily mean a sannyasi only. It means anyone who has controlled his or her senses. So this verse and the next two verses, they set the standard of discipline and character required in a practitioner of bhakti in order to become qualified to reach to the level of loving Krishna. Okay. Discipline and character, two things. So when you look at this verse talks about giving up slavery to some of the urges that are, pushed upon us because of us having this body and mind. If you look at this verse very, clearly, you'll understand these are the obstacles which generally any new devotee faces in spiritual life. What are those obstacles? What are those difficulties? To be able to control one's body and mind. To be able to not be able to give up habits which are bad for one's bhakti. So that's why this is a very, very beginning level of knowledge given here. Updeshamrita takes you from very low level to the highest level. So Srila Rupa Goswami here is setting up a premise which qualifies us to enter into the platform of devotional service or bhakti. If you look at this verse, it talks about 6 urges. Shad Vega. Vega means what? Vega means push. Like if you see a river flowing, then the current, the force with which the river flows, that is called the Vega of the river. So similarly, there are some pushes, some currents inside us. And those currents force us to engage in certain activities. It is said that one who can control these 6 urges of the body and mind, that person is a sober person and can become a spiritual master for the whole world. The translation of this verse is, a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Fine. Now, let me ask you a very simple question. The philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or the teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is we should become servants, not that we should become masters. Why is Srila Rupa Goswami beginning this very important book with an instruction that you do this and you can then make disciples all over the world? Our philosophy is we have to become sevak, servant, or we have to become shishya. So instead of saying these are the qualities of a good disciple, he says, if you have these qualities, you become qualified to make disciples all over the world.
Prabhuji,
so why such an introduction is there given in this particular book?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandatana. Prabhuji, because if I have to become a good disciple, I have to look for a guru who has all these qualities. So maybe that is the reason why all these qualities are being explained in the beginning.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Why? Why? Maybe to attract attention. Yes.
Yeah, for being a good disciple, I should be able to follow all these instructions given. So that's why it starts with these instructions.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandvat, to progress in bhakti, these urges we have to control or we need to give up on. So then only we can progress in bhakti. That's the instruction.
Thank you. Yes, someone said attract many people.
Preaching, Prabhuji.
Sorry?
To encourage preaching.
To encourage preaching.
Prabhuji, to become a good disciple, to become a good master, you have to become a good disciple first. So that is the reason, probably.
Yes, and Ashok Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, the aim of this was to spread the Krishna consciousness throughout the world. So once we achieve these qualifications, we will be able to preach this Krishna consciousness. At the same time, we should remain in the mode of servant and remain humble.
Thank you. Correct. So all the points you mentioned are, yes, correct to some extent. So one reason why he has mentioned so is because he is giving this instruction to Sri Jiva Goswami. And Sri Jiva Goswami was trying to act as a guru. He was trying to correct the person with whom, he entered into a debate. So he's trying to tell Jiva Goswami that you want to become a guru. That's very nice. But then you should have control over all the 6 urges first, right? So look at the context. The context is it's an instruction to a specific person, also an instruction to everyone. And in broader sense, if we are not trying to control these urges, we will not be able to find people who are able to control these urges. Which means if you are not practicing doing this, you will also not be able to know who else is practicing to do this. Right? So that's why he has said that if you are looking for a guru who has such qualities, then you also have to start cultivating those qualities. Then you can identify someone who is good at doing it. For example, if you want to become a good cricketer, you yourself has to know something about cricket, little bit. Then you can find a good coach someone who can coach in playing cricket. Similarly, if I don't know anything about controlling my mind and senses, how will I ever identify personalities who are able to do so and associate with them or learn from them? So here, this is how he begins. Now, another question that may arise here is, why is it really needed to control these urges? Is controlling these urges devotional service? Bhakti? If I control these urges, do I become a devotee of Krishna?
Start of devotional service.
If you, all of you, if you can answer, first of all, by raising your hand, that would be nice. Otherwise, 2-3 people answer at the same time. If you raise your hand, then we can give chance to one at a time. Yes, Dev Prabhu.
It's the start of devotional service.
It's a start of devotional service, which means controlling these urges is not devotional service. Yes, no.
Yes, it is not devotional service.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Yes, it's not devotional service. To control these urges is not devotional service. When we control these urges, we become qualified to practice devotional service. We become qualified to enter into the realm of devotional service by controlling these urges. Why it is so? Because in Padma Puran it's mentioned, Lord Krishna can never manifest in the heart of a person whose heart is full of anger, lamentation, greed, and other such emotions. Lord Krishna will never enter into the heart of such a person, which means the heart has to be purified of all these emotions. Then only Krishna will enter into it. So this is just like entering into devotional service, stepping into devotional service. Not really doing this makes you a devotee of Krishna, right? That is something which is very important to be understood. This is like setting the premise. Now, you see, what are these 6 urges? It's to speak, the demands of the mind, the actions of anger, then the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals. Which means you can divide all these urges into 3 types. The urge of the speech, the urge of the mind, and the urge of the body. 3, right? We perform any actions through the speech, through the mind, through the body. Vachaha, manasaha, kayaha. 3 ways. Huh? So there are these 3 urges which are mentioned. Srila Rupa Goswami has specified this to make us ready for devotional service. Because if I am not a master of my senses, I cannot become a servant of Krishna. I have to be a master of my senses, master of my mind, to become a servant of Krishna. That is why this is the first thing mentioned here. Let's look at the purport. Srila Prabhupada begins the purport by quoting an example from Srimad Bhagavatam of conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami. We'll read this. Someone would like to read this first paragraph. Okay, Rupanshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandatanam. In Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.9 to 10, Parikshit Maharaj placed a number of intelligent questions before Sukadev Goswami. One of these questions was, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? For instance, a thief may know perfectly well that he may be arrested for his stealing, and he may actually even see a thief arrested by the police, yet he continues to steal. Experience is gathered by hearing and seeing. One who is less intelligent gathers experience by seeing, and one who is more intelligent gathers experience by hearing. When an intelligent person hears from the law books and shastras or scriptures that stealing is not good and hears that a thief is punished when arrested, he refrains from theft. A less intelligent person may first have to be arrested and punished for stealing to learn to stop stealing. However, a rascal, a foolish man, may have the experience of both hearing and seeing and may even be punished, but still he continues to steal. Even if such a person atones and is punished by the government, he will again commit theft as soon as he comes out of the jail. If punishment in jail is considered atonement, what is the benefit of such atonement? Thus Parikshit Maharaj inquired.
Thank you. Drishtashrutaabhyam yat papam janan api atmano hitam karoti bhuyo vivashaha prayashchittam atho katham kvachin nivartate bhadrat kvachit charati tat punaha prayashchittam atho partham anya punjara sochvat. Srila Prabhupada begins the purport by taking to this topic of prayashchitta, known as atonement. I hope you understand the word atonement or prayashchitta. What it means, I have done something wrong and now I want to basically undo it, right? So I go through some purificatory process. That's called atonement. So Parikshit Maharaj is telling here that this atonement is not so helpful. It's useless. It's like elephant taking bath, then coming out again, and then putting the sand over its body all over again. This is what happens with us also. We do something wrong, then we repent. We feel the guilt about it. We remember it for a few days, few hours, few moments. And then after that, we do the same thing again. So it's like kind of we are pushed to do the same thing again and again. So here Parikshit Maharaj is saying atonement is a process of kind of, saying sorry. I'm sorry I did it. And you know the consequences of doing that were bad and you will have to suffer from those consequences. So you kind of beg forgiveness and you don't want to experience those consequences. So you find a way out, voluntarily suffer for it. But then that doesn't really change our attitude. Therefore, for atonement, it is explained, like we can see in the slide here, that if a person does not subdue the urges, the person continues to engage in sinful activities and will have to go to hell. Atonement is something like taking bath, of an elephant taking bath, coming and again putting the sand on its body. So while explaining that, Srila Prabhupada spoke about 4 types of intelligence: first class, second class, third class, and fourth class, right? First class is who learns by hearing. First time he or she heard this is wrong, don't do it. Okay, fine, I should not do it. Second, learns by seeing. Saw someone doing it, saw that person getting punished or getting into trouble, so I should not do it. Third, that person does it himself or herself, goes through the whole experience of suffering, and then realizes I should not do it. And the fourth, he says, is a rascal who sees, who hears, who experiences, and still does not learn and wants to do it again, all over again. So there are 4 kinds of people. Now, for the people who have already gone through their experience of suffering, they also many times don't learn. Though they try to sometimes atone for it, they don't get rectified. The situation doesn't get rectified. We'll read further. The example is already given of a thief, right? The thief again and again steals, though he or she might be caught and put into jail. Next paragraph, let's continue reading. Then we'll discuss more in detail about it. Next paragraph. Okay. Ashoka Nija.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. He compared the atonement to an elephant's bathing. The elephant may take a very nice bath in the river, but as soon as it comes onto the bank, it throws dirt all over its body. What then is the value of its bathing? Similarly, many spiritual practitioners chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and at the same time commit many forbidden things, thinking that their chanting will counteract their offenses. Of the 10 types of offenses one can commit while chanting the holy name of the Lord, this offense will cause Namo Balad Yasya Papa Buddhi, committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Similarly, certain Christians go to church to confess their sins, thinking that confessing their sins before a priest and performing some penance will relieve them from the results of their weekly sins. As soon as Saturday is over and Sunday comes, they again begin their sinful activities, expecting to be forgiven the next Saturday. This kind of prashchitta or atonement is condemned by Parikshit Maharaj, the most intelligent king of his time. Sukadev Goswami, equally intelligent as befitting the spiritual master of Maharaj Parikshit, answered the king and confirmed that his statement concerning atonement was correct. A sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Thus, real prashchitta, atonement, is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Anyone knows how this conversation started between Parikshit and Shukdev, that Parikshit Maharaj said this atonement is of no use. No one remembers, never heard of it before. So this all starts after Shukdev Goswami explains to Parikshit about the hellish experiences in Canto 5. There are 28 types of hell, and a person suffers there miserably. So then Parikshit Maharaj says, oh, after so much of suffering, when they take birth again, then they again commit same sinful activities. They don't change. And why they don't change? Because punishment cannot help one change always. Punishment is not sufficient. Both kinds of punishment, voluntarily accepted or something forced upon us, it will not always help us change. It cannot help us change. So therefore, he said, I don't agree with this process of atonement, of doing some prayaschitta and reforming yourself. So when he said so, Shukdev Goswami agreed. Yes, what you say is totally correct. That it doesn't happen like that. You cannot counteract a sinful activity by a pious activity. Why? Because sinful activity is also karma, pious activity is also karma. Karma cannot counteract karma. In fact, by engaging in karma, it only increases our tendency to engage in karma, which is something which is detrimental for the pure spirit soul. And any kind of karmic activity is unhealthy for spirit soul, whether it's good karmic activity or bad karmic activity. So by engaging in a good karmic activity, we are not purifying ourselves of the tendency to engage in karma. That's not going to help. So what solution was settled for? Real prayaschitta is you awaken your dormant Krishna consciousness. That is real prayaschitta. That can only help us actually to change our nature. Srila give two examples, like people going to church, confessing on the Sunday or Saturday session that throughout this week, whatever sins we have committed, we are sorry for that. We'll not do it anymore again. And then as soon as they are back home, Monday starts, the same sins they commit. Again, they go to church on Sunday and they say, we'll not commit sin anymore. Or in our context, he gives the example of devotees who chant the holy name, commit sinful activities, and then think that the holy name will save us from the reactions of those sinful activities. So that tendency is being discussed here of prayaschitta or atonement. So what is real atonement? That is mentioned in the next verse. So this mentality actually of doing something wrong, feeling guilty about it, it is good. It's nice. At least one has to be a human being to feel something, that I've done something wrong and I should be remorseful about it. But it is not sufficient to change ourselves. That's not sufficient. What is required is you accept the process of Krishna consciousness. That is required. Just having a guilt of doing something wrong is not sufficient to help us change. Many people have that guilt. Still, they are not able to change. They cannot avoid doing the same things again and again. So what is real atonement? Let's read further now. Next paragraph. This paragraph, you'll find that it's divided into two parts. So we'll try to understand what are those two parts. Real atonement comes through what? Ritesh Prabhu. Are you there?
Real atonement involves coming to real knowledge, and for this, there is a standard process. When one follows a regulated hygienic process, he does not fall sick. A human being is meant to be trained accordingly to certain principles to revive his original knowledge. Such a methodical life is described as tapasya. One can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge or Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy, brahmacharya, by controlling the mind, by controlling the senses, by giving up one's possession in charity, by being overtly truthful, by keeping clean, and by practicing yoga asanas. However, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process, simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami.
Thank you. So there are three paths: path of karma, path of jnana, and path of bhakti. In the first, it was mentioned, sinful activity cannot be counteracted by pious activity, which means you cannot counteract karma by karma. What is the solution? Technically, the solution is you can counteract karma by jnana or yoga or by bhakti. So if one has done sinful activities in the past, one can go through the process of real atonement either through the path of jnana or through the path of bhakti. The path of jnana means you cultivate knowledge of soul, I am Atman. And you engage in yoga practices like mentioned here. What are those practices that you need to do to remain always pure of sinful activities and reactions? Those are, you give charity, you be truthful, you keep yourself clean, you practice yogasana, you practice brahmacharya, austerity. That is a path of jnana and yoga, to do the atonement of what wrong one has done in the past. After that, the next path is prescribed. What is that path? The path of bhakti, which is 2 points mentioned there. One should follow the 4 regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, and one should engage in devotional service under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. So for a devotee, practicing devotee, this is the process of atonement. We follow the 4 regulative principles very strictly, and we engage in direct devotional service under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master. That is the process of atonement for a devotee, practicing devotee. And that's the easiest. So Prabhupada said this easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. That easy process recommended. What he is recommending here in Updeshamrita, the same thing is going to then explain in detail in Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. Updeshamrita has 11 verses, Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu has around 1,000 verses. So those 1,000 verses are summarized into these 11 verses. And that's what he's explaining here in the beginning, that you want to become free from all the sin you have committed in the past. Atonement will not help. The path of jnana will help to some extent, but the path of bhakti will completely help you, will help you totally. And what is that path of bhakti? Srila Prabhupada explains, follow 4 regulative principles, engage in devotional service under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master. Okay. I hope that's clear so far. So he mentions, like, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process. Now, let me ask you a very simple question. Let's say you have anger problem. You get angry very easily. Now you want to go through some anger management course. So on YouTube, you find some XYZ person is inviting you for a webinar, free webinar, and he's going to give you tips for anger management. Okay. So you think, let me go and watch this show and learn something from there, apply in my life. In this way, I'll be able to overcome my anger. Is that right or wrong? One teaching of Rupa Goswami is you should use everything in Krishna Seva. So someone is giving you free knowledge on anger management. You can use that also in Krishna Seva. Right or wrong? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you. So if someone says wrong, it's not correct, then why it's not correct? Like one of you mentioned, Salomi Mataji mentioned, it's wrong as it only changes your behavior, not your consciousness. Okay, that's a good point. Any other point? It's an artificial way of controlling the anger. Some tips can be learned. If based on scripture, it's going to be helpful. It doesn't work for everyone, step-by-step process. Okay. So here what is explained in the commentaries by Acharyas is something very interesting. It's actually really, really amazing the way they explain it. They say, first of all, you need to understand that if someone is having a goal in mind, and the goal is, I want to become the best boxer in the world, boxing champion, okay? And that person is now putting efforts to achieve that goal, but that person is not getting successful, so that person will become frustrated and angry, right? Let's take the case of a devotee now. A devotee is trying to control his mind or his speech. And because a devotee is not able to do that, that leads to frustration, and that devotee is also getting angry. So the first thing that the acharyas explain is, this person is angry, that devotee is also angry. However, you should know, this anger is not same as that anger. Why? Because the cause of being angry is not the same. Right? And because the cause of being angry is not the same, the tips to manage the anger given to a person who is trying to be the best boxing champion will not help someone who is trying to control anger on the path of devotional service. It's like, you are in your house, you are living in your house, and it's windy. So a lot of dust has entered into your house. You'll call that dust also as waste. It's waste, correct? But then there is an industrial waste. That is also waste. However, the way of cleaning a place of industrial waste and the dust that has come inside the house, will it be the same? No, you call both waste, but it's not the same waste. One is industrial waste, lots of toxic chemicals. The way you clean it will be different. And little dust has come into your house, you can just clean it with a broom and mop. Similarly, the acharyas, they explain, on the path of devotional service, the obstacles that we face, they can only be overcome by the process of overcoming them explained by the Vaishnava acharyas. You cannot borrow ideas and tips from people outside to control those urges. Cannot. It's not going to help. It will be only a waste of time. She said, only by following what the acharyas have given, you are going to be benefited. You're going to be benefited. And that's why then they say, if you had to find out the solution in a different place, then why would acharyas also give you the solution? Then they would leave it for you to find out. Right? So for any devotee who has difficulty in controlling the senses, the mind, the process of controlling those urges is given in this verse of Updeshamrita. And that process has to be applied. If we don't apply that process, by other processes, we will not be able to permanently control our mind and senses. It's not going to help, right? Therefore, it's very important for us to understand the steps given in this verse. Every single urge, how it has to be controlled, is very nicely mentioned here. All right, let's move forward then. So the 6 urges mentioned here are divided into 3 categories by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Verbal, mental, physical. The urge of the mind is of 2 types. Avirodha Priti, Virodha Yukta Krodha. Very simple Sanskrit. Avirodha Priti means what? Virod means to put some restriction. Avirod means unrestricted. Priti means attachment. So one of the urge of the mind is to have unrestricted or unregulated attachment to anything or anyone. Fine? Unrestricted, unregulated attachment to anything or anyone. That's one urge of the mind. And the other urge of the mind is Virodha Yukta Krodha. You are restricting something or someone, and because of that restriction, that other thing or other person is retaliating, and that is making you angry. Just like I am trying to control my own mind, and because I am not able to do it, I am becoming angry. Right? I want to get up early in the morning, but I am not able to do that. So then I become angry. So that is one kind of urge of the mind. And the other kind of urge is you have unregulated attachment to something. It can be anything. It can be as simple as liking to eat chocolates. But unrestricted attachment to something. So the way you control these urges, of course, we'll discuss this in depth for each one, but a very simple solution given is, these urges are called Vegas. Vegas means they come and they go, just like waves in a river. So these urges, they come, they hit us, and then they also go away. What has to be learned is a person just tolerates them when they come and not act upon them. Because they will not permanently stay. They will come, they will try to shake us, and then meanwhile, they will also go away. Tolerance means you are able to just endure it for some time. You don't retaliate, you don't react back. So how do you do that? For that, you need to be, you can follow 2 paths again. You can follow the path of a jnani, or you can follow the path of a bhakta. The path of a jnani is you become an observer. Observe when these urges are coming to your body and mind, right? Observe their pattern. And when you have become a good observer, you will understand beforehand that this urge is going to attack me now. So before it attacks, you are prepared, mentally very much prepared. And you can withdraw yourself from that situation. And the other way to do is that we do it through devotional service, which means we are always engaged 24 hours in Krishna Seva. And we are so much engaged in Krishna Seva that these urges have no time to disturb us. This verse, when you study the commentary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that this verse applies to all. Of course, those who are sannyasis, before they left the house, they must have already controlled these 6 urges. Then only they would become a sannyasi or qualified to be a sannyasi. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, these instructions apply a lot for people who are householders or grihasthas, because the environment around them is always changing. So many things are going on in life, So they have to become a very expert at understanding this verse and apply this verse in all circumstances in life. However, the degree to which you apply these verses that we are going to discuss is different for a grihastha and a sannyasi or a brahmachari. The instructions don't apply to the same degree or same level. So Nectar of Instruction is a book which is to be understood differently by a grihastha, differently by a sannyasi. The level of application. Like in the purport itself, you'll find some sections which are not for grihastha, which are completely for sannyasis in the same purport of text 1. Right. So we need to have a very clear understanding that who is the audience here. So one who is able to tolerate these urges, that person is known as tapasvi. That's what Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport. One who can tolerate these urges is called a tapasvi. or a Goswami. So first urge, let's discuss about the first urge, the urge to speak. Vachaha Vegam. Someone would like to read? Who is raising the hand? Yes, Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. First, one must control his speaking power. Every one of us has the power of speech. As soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we speak about all sorts of nonsense. A toad in the field speaks by croaking, and similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak, even if all he has to say is nonsense. The croaking of the toad, however, simply invites the snake, "Please come here and eat me." Nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad goes on croaking. The talking of materialistic men and impersonalist Mayavadi philosophers may be compared to the croaking of the frogs. They are always speaking nonsense and thus inviting death to catch them. Controlling speech, however, does not mean self-imposed silence. So the external process of mauna, as Mayavadi philosophers think, since silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately it proves a failure. The meaning of controlled speech conveyed by Srila Goswami advocates the positive process of Krishna Katha, engaging the speaking process in glorifying the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. The preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the urge to speak. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So first it starts with speech. Why it starts with speech first? Because speech leads to action. Whatever we speak, we are going to do that. So if we want to control our actions, we have to control our speech. Speech inspires not just actions, speech also inspires thoughts. Actually, thoughts are also another form of speech. One can speak in three ways, like here you can see in the slide. One can speak by speaking, one can speak by writing, and one can speak in the mind. Right? So controlling the urge to speak means you have to control all these three things. What you are speaking verbally, voicing it out, what you are writing, or what you are speaking to yourself in your own mind. That is also speech. So that leads to then actions, whatever we do. Therefore, this is the first thing that has to be checked. This is very important. It includes what we are surfing on internet, what we are reading, because that's what's going to inspire our speech and our thoughts, right? So the speech that stimulates, actually it creates a psychological atmosphere inside us, and that's how we begin to behave. The solution given here for controlling the urge to speak is not that you remain silent, mauna vrata, as is taught in Vipassana practice, that art of silence. You stop talking and you allow the mind to be emptied. But it's mentioned that you control this urge by starting to speak about Krishna. And how do we do that? We chant every day Krishna Nam, that is speaking about Krishna or speaking Krishna, right? Then we recite the Vedic scriptures. We recite the shlokas, that is also speaking about Krishna or Krishna Katha. And if we get time then to talk to people, we talk about Krishna. So that is the way to control our urge to speak. That is the only way, no other way. That if you have to control this urge, you must talk about Krishna. Nothing else. Very simple solution. And only one solution, no other solution. That you use your tongue to speak about Krishna. That's how we control the urge to speak. Now, different people have a different, different degree of push to speak. Some people are quite silent in nature. Some people are more talkative. But those who are silent also, they may be silent outside, but they may also be very talkative inside, which means they might be talking a lot to themselves in their own mind. So they have to also check what kind of words are going on in their mind, what they are talking to themselves. Now, a survey showed, of course, I don't know how much correct it is, that women, they are 3.5 times more talkative than men. So, like if men are speaking 3,000 words a day, women are speaking 10,000 words a day. This survey was done 20 years ago. So the statistics was men speak 2,000 words a day and women speak 7,000 words a day. But when that survey was done a year ago, then the statistics changed that men speak 7,000 words a day and women speak 20,000 words a day. So basically in 20 years, everyone has started talking more than before. However, whatever it may be, if let's say women are more talkative, then they can also become more Krishna conscious. We just replace the subject matter, then you talk more about Krishna, so you become then more Krishna conscious, 3.5 times more Krishna conscious than men, right? If you utilize that urge to speak in the like manner. But it is true that we have this tendency to speak maybe verbally or mentally, and it has to be checked. How do you check it? By talking about Krishna. Therefore, in one place, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that to be a preacher of Krishna consciousness is not something optional. You must preach about Krishna consciousness. Because preaching about Krishna means you are getting a chance to utilize your tongue in the service of Krishna. Right? You're getting a chance to utilize that tongue to speak about Krishna. So that's why he said everyone should get a chance to speak about Krishna. It is for self-benefit, not just for benefiting others. It's for self-benefit. My tongue should be used sufficiently in Krishna Seva by talking. So you see, when you are writing exams for Bhakti-sastri, memorizing shlokas, these are just different ways of engaging the tongue in Krishna Katha, right? Different ways, and then purifying the tongue of its tendencies. Fine. Okay. And he already gave some examples, very simple example, croaking of frog and all that stuff that you know. Let's go to the next one. We'll go to the next paragraph. Talks about then the mind. Please read. Hanisha Mataji. Hanisha Mataji, I'm reading. We cannot hear you. Maybe your microphone is not working. Next, Ratnam.
The restlessness.
Yes, it's the restlessness.
The restlessness or flickeriness of the mind, manovega, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 22.31 says, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Adhikara Yahan Krishna Tahan Nahi Mayar Adhikara. Krishna is just like the sun and Maya is just like darkness. If the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Similarly, if Krishna is present in the mind, there is no possibility of the minds being agitated by Maya's influence. The yogic process of negating all material thoughts will not help. To try to create a vacuum in the mind is artificial. The vacuum will not remain. However, if one always thinks of Krishna and how to serve Krishna, to serve Krishna best, one's mind will naturally be controlled.
Thank you. Manaha Vega, Manasaha Vega. So the way to control that is you think about Krishna or you think about serving Krishna. Srila Prabhupada gave two solutions to control the mind. One is, if you are situated in mode of goodness, then for you the solution is you always chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra or you meditate on Krishna's pastimes. But if you say, I'm not in mode of goodness, then for such a person, the solution given by Srila Prabhupada is that you make plans to serve Krishna. Making plans is the quality of Rajaguna. So then you plan for Krishna Seva. Keep on making newer and newer plans for serving Krishna. So that is the way to keep the mind engaged in Krishna consciousness, always. And the other is to always chant the holy name or think of Krishna Leela. So when you say the urge of mind, basically it refers to the raw mental flow. What's going on in our mind when we are alone, when there's no one around, we have our own time. What exactly goes in our mind? What kind of thoughts come in there? Are they of the same nature, same variety? So that's our basically mental urge. So this has to be checked. So sometimes, people, they get a rush of doing something and immediately then they start acting on it. They are very impulsive people. Suddenly a thought came and right away they are implementing it immediately. So this is the urge of the mind. It pushes you to different kinds of affairs, temptations. Now, how that has to be checked? Only by thinking of Krishna Leela or Krishna Katha, Krishna's pastimes. That's the only way. Thinking means it's not just reading or hearing. It means going to the next level, letting your mind be absorbed into it. Not just reading and hearing, the next level, letting your mind be absorbed into it, hooked into it. Now, how do you do that? You do that by, if possible, when you have read something or you have heard something, then you close your eyes and for 5 minutes, you just go back and revise everything in your mind, not by looking at the book or the screen. In that way, we increase our capacity to meditate or remember. It's a quality which has to be cultivated. It's a skill, basically. It's a skill. So how do you do that? You do it by practice. Like, to give you an example, now Jagannath Rath Yatra is coming. Everyone is so excited about the whole festival, excited about Rath Yatra, excited about Netrotsav, excited about Jagannath Mahaprasadam, excited about so many things. So we are also hearing so many different pastimes of Lord Jagannath. It's very nice to hear those pastimes. But why not do this exercise that before you go to bed, you close your eyes, take out time to just meditate on one of those pastimes. You may not remember all the details. You may not remember the name of the devotee who had this pastime with Jagannath, but at least you remember something. That is very, very helpful to keep the mind purified, pure. And now this is only possible when we come out of our, fast-paced life. We are always running. Task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, so many things to do in the to-do list. So we can put a pause and then now this time, let me just sit and think about Krishna. Do nothing else. If you're in mode of passion, immediately you'll go to sleep. But if you're in mode of goodness, yes, something will come into the mind. So we can start practicing it. That's the way to control the urge of the mind. Fine. Take a break and we'll continue.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Let's come back to the class. We discussed about Vacha Vega and Mana Vega. Controlling the urge of speech, controlling the urge of mind. Now the next one is controlling the urge of anger. Anger is also one form of, or the urge of anger is also one form of urge of mind, which is due to frustration or non-fulfillment of some desire, right? So let's read here this paragraph. How to control the anger. Tulasi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Similarly, anger can be controlled. We cannot stop anger altogether. But if we simply become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord or the devotees of the Lord, we control our anger in Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry with the miscreant brothers, Jagai and Madai, who blasphemed and struck Nityananda Prabhu. In his Shikshastaka, Lord Chaitanya wrote, Srinad hi sunichena taro api sahisnuna. One should be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than the tree. One may then ask why the Lord exhibited his anger. The point is that one should be ready to tolerate all insults to one's own self. But when Krishna or his pure devotee is blasphemed, a genuine devotee becomes angry and acts like fire against the offenders. Krodha, anger, cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. It was in anger that Hanuman set fire to Lanka, but he is worshipped as the greatest devotee of Lord Ramachandra. This means that he utilized his anger in the right way. Arjuna serves as another example. He was not willing to fight, but Krishna incited his anger. You must fight. To fight without anger is not possible. Anger is controlled, however, when utilized in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Natural to be angry, Shiva said, but then that anger has to be controlled and utilized in service to Krishna. I'll give you an example from Srila Prabhupada's life. He was once invited to a symposium where different people had come together to speak on Bhagavad Gita. Like, they do these events where they'll invite all the experts on one subject matter and then give them 10 minutes, 20 minutes to talk what they want to talk on that particular subject. So they invited all different Gita experts and they also invited Prabhupada. Prabhupada was given a slot. He reached on time and the organizer then said, Swamiji, we are running late. So your slot will come after half an hour. You have two choices. Either you can go and sit inside and wait, or we can give you a waiting room. You can sit in the waiting room. And then when your turn comes, then you go and start talking. So I said, I better wait outside. So he was sitting there with his assistant, his grace, Harishari Prabhu. The gate to that waiting room was connected to the assembly hall, where all these people were giving their talks. And the gate was open. So Prabhupada was sitting there and listening to everything they were talking inside. And then Harisari Prabhu noticed Srila Prabhupada, he was sitting, suddenly he stood up. And after some time, he started pacing up and down. And he was getting very angry. And then he was saying, this rascal, he's saying this, that rascal, he's saying that. This doctor, he knows nothing. And Harisari Prabhu could see that Srila Prabhupada was inciting his own anger. Like he was making himself angry by thinking about what they are talking. And then his turn came. So then he marched into the assembly hall just like a bull marches into a bullfight, with so much of aggression. And he went there and sat on the asana and said, since 3-4 days, you people all are talking about Shanti. But Krishna never talked about Shanti. Krishna talked about fighting, in Bhagavad Gita. So from where did you learn this message of Shanti from Bhagavad Gita? And then every single person who was sitting in front of him, he was targeting that person and talking about their philosophy, how it was wrong. It became such a heated debate. Everyone was shouting and screaming on Prabhupada that you have come here just to speak your own philosophy. So one Bengali lady, very young lady, maybe 35 years old, she stood up and said, you are just teaching what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. And then Prabhupada said, you sit down and shut up. I'm not talking to you. So then he went on and on and on and on and on and on. And after that, suddenly he changed the entire mood, entire atmosphere, and he started making people laugh. In 5 minutes, everyone was cool again, and they were like, okay, we had a good talk. And then Prabhupada said, sometimes this rasa of fighting should also be experienced, not always Shanti. So then he told to Harisari Prabhu, this is the way you can utilize your anger in Krishna's sale. Get angry when people talk wrong about Krishna. Get angry when people talk wrong about devotees. Get angry when people speak useless philosophy. In that way, use your anger. Don't deny that anger. Use that emotion of anger in the right manner. So that's why you'll see sometimes devotees, when they're talking about karmis and jnanis, they get angry, or you can see that they become very strong. They speak very strongly, and it may appear, why are you so angry, or why are you speaking with such force? So that's just natural way of actually controlling one's anger by using it in Krishna seva. So this is the way to do it. Like he gave example, Hanumanji used it for service to Ramachandra, Arjuna used it for service to Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used it when Jagai and Madai, they tried to attack Lord Nityananda. So similarly, we can also utilize. However, we have to be very careful that we don't utilize it for our own sake, because anger is the most dangerous tool to utilize actually. It can cause great disaster if it's not properly used. So one has to be very careful. But yes, this is one way of using the anger and controlling the urge of anger. In this way, we can control this urge. Okay, let's move to the next one now. Jiva Vega. Next paragraph. Ratnangi Lakshmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. As for the urges of the tongue, we all experience that the tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. Generally, we should not allow the tongue to eat according to its choice, but should control the tongue by supplying prasada. The devotee's attitude is that he will eat only when Krishna gives him prasada. That is the way to control the urge of the tongue. One should take prasada at scheduled time and should not eat in restaurants and sweet meat shops simply to satisfy the whims of the tongue or belly. If we stick to the principle of taking only prasada, the urges of the belly and the tongue can be controlled.
Thank you.
Krishna.
So in the urge of the body, the first is urge of the tongue. And Yeshurabad says that one should not allow the tongue to eat according to its choice, but should control the tongue by supplying prasada. The devotee's attitude is that he will eat only when Krishna gives him prasada. That is the way to control the urge of the tongue. And one should take prasadam at scheduled times and should not eat in restaurants or sweet meat shops simply to satisfy the whims of the tongue or belly. If we stick to the principle of taking only prasad, the urges of the belly and tongue can be controlled. So this is also a very difficult task, a challenge to control one's tendency to eat delicious preparations. It's mentioned here that one should not do it just to satisfy the tongue or the belly. However, there is another consideration that if it's Krishna Prasadam and it's coming to you, then taking it as prasadam, there's no harm in eating delicious food also in regulated quantity. Like an example is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was served a plate of sweets from Lord Jagannath's Mahaprasadam. So then he told Sri Rupa Goswami that I cannot eat so many sweets. Sweets are not good. So then Sri Rupa Goswami told to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, don't see them as sweets, see them as Jagannath Prasad. Don't see them as sweets, see them as Jagannath Prasad. Of course, Srila Damodar Goswami is qualified to instruct Mahaprabhu like that. He is very close. So, and Mahaprabhu is just acting as a student to teach us that there are two experiences where we eat something. One is called objective experience and the other is called subjective experience. Objective experience means I eat it for its taste. And subjective experience means I eat it because it is eaten by Krishna. Right. So if it is eaten by Krishna, it can be a very rich food, it can be very palatable, it can be very delicious, whatever it may be. But then I eat it because it is eaten by Krishna. So I eat with that consciousness. And the other is I eat it because I like this particular taste. Anyone it may be, salty, sweet, sour, bitter, pungent, astringent. I like that taste. So the controlling the urge of the tongue means you don't eat food because of its taste. You eat it or you honor it because it is offered to Krishna. That's the way we control that urge, the urge of the tongue. Right. And this is very essential. In the paragraphs ahead, we'll find there are so many quotations given by Srila Prabhupada from different places, how this urge is the beginning of one's spiritual downfall, or one can get carried away on the spiritual path by losing control on one's tongue. Jiva Vega, what we are eating, where we are eating, when we are eating, how much we are eating, is the easiest way of sense gratification, actually. Right? So this is to be practiced by everyone, not just sannyasi, brahmacharis, even by grihastha devotees, that the tongue should be controlled by eating. And what practical suggestion has been given by Srila Prabhupada? You eat at scheduled times of the day. Means have a fixed time when you eat. Fixed time breakfast, fixed time lunch. No, it should be fixed time. You eat at that time only. You don't eat at other times. In this way, you control the urge of the belly. Therefore, this nowadays when you go to doctor, they say you should eat small quantities, but many times a day. Take snacks, right? In 2-3 hours, you should be eating. And Prabhupada made a statement, snack life is dog life. A dog eats like that, not a human being. A human being eats at a specific time of the day, regulated better. Once you have eaten it, finish. Now, next only when the body would need, then only you eat. Not because of taste or because it gives you some gratification, you eat. So that is something which we have to also practice. By practice, we can come to that level. So there's quality and quantity. Quality is for Jiva Vega and quantity is for Udara Vega, for the belly. right? Overeating is for the belly, and taste is the problem for the tongue. The tongue wants to go for tasty preparations, and the belly wants to overeat. So these two things have to be checked or controlled. Okay, so far, whatever we discussed, let's take any questions if you have before we go to the next topic, if we get time. So we already discussed 3 urges, 4 urges, actually. And we have 2 more remaining. And then we have some more citations from different places given in this product. Some of you had put up your hands for reading, so you can put down your hands, please. Yes, Janaki Mataji, you had a question in the beginning. What does Tri Dandi means? Tri Dandi basically here refers to a Vaishnava sannyasi. It's called Tri Danda sannyas. A Vaishnava sannyasi and a Mayavadi sannyasi has this difference. A Mayavadi sannyasi has 1 danda, 1 stick, and a Vaishnava sannyasi has 3 sticks wrapped together in the same cloth. So those 3 sticks signify body, mind, and words. It means that from today onwards, I'm going to use my body, mind, and words completely in Krishna Seva. So that person is called Tri Dandi Goswami, one who has controlled the senses, hence is a Vaishnava, Tri Dandi. Okay, next, Upasana Mataji. You are not able to unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So, you were telling about the anger, how to control it, and can it be controlled only by, the other way other than the Krishna conscious way? So, if my question is, we have sometimes it happens that we need to understand the root cause of anger, and that comes from basically the unfulfilled desire or lust.
So,
yeah. So is it? Is it? Does it work in that way that always it comes from the unfulfilled desire or lust, or sometimes it might happen from the other cause also?
that's the root cause. It's because of unfulfilled desire. Anger is because of that. If you're frustrated, you wanted something, it did not happen, so you're angry. That's the reason. That's the only root cause. There's no other root cause. It can be any desire, but that's the only cause. Someone did not behave in the way you wanted. You did not get something what you wanted in life, so you get angry. Which means my lust, when it does not get satisfied, my desire does not get satisfied, I get angry. That's the root cause. That is the root cause in all situations. Yes, Mataji. Okay. Neha.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, is it good to eat Krishna Prasad, too much of Krishna Prasad?
Is it good to eat too much of Krishna Prasad?
Yeah.
Yes, it is good to eat too much of Krishna Prasad when we are very new to Krishna consciousness. In those days, it's very good to eat too much of Krishna Prasad because it will stop us from eating non-Krishna Prasad. So like initially when devotees became members of iskcon society, Srila Prabhupada allowed them to eat voraciously. He would feed them more than what they could actually eat, so that they would forget what they were eating before and accept this diet. But after some time, then he told them, now you should also try to reduce the quantity of your eating. So initially, yes, just to make that change, shift from that diet to Krishna Prasadam diet, we can overeat sometimes. But then slowly, we have to also reduce the quantity of it. So this has
And
to
also
practice.
eat.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has to be practiced gradually. You cannot do it just in one day. Yes.
And the second part of the question is to eat that Krishna Prasad which we like, eat more of that. Is it
That
good?
is also okay in the initial phase. You eat what you like to eat. In the initial days, that's fine. But then later on, it's not like that. Later on, you can also do that once in a while, but then you take to a regular normal diet. What is normal diet? Rice, dal, sabji, chapati, whatever, very basic, simple meal. You take to that. And on occasionally when you have feast, then you can take to so many different preparations. That's okay. Right.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next question. Vindarani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm confused by this sentence. Anger we cannot stop anger.
Yes.
Does it mean that we cannot stop it at the moment, or it means if we have this urge, we'll always have? I wonder if this urge should
what he
be
means to say is that
increasing.
what he means to say is that anger is an emotion. It's a natural emotion. So you cannot completely get rid of that emotion. Like people, they say, no, you become totally free from anger. Just kill that emotion. So you cannot kill that emotion. That will always be there. Because what is the result of, what is the cause of anger? Non-fulfillment of desire, right? Now, to become free from anger means you have to become completely rid of desires. But how can soul be completely free from desires? Soul has its natural desires, right? Isn't it? So then there is natural, the anger also comes out as a natural function of the soul. So what he's trying to say is that you cannot kill that emotion. That if you're thinking so, that's a wrong understanding. However, it doesn't mean that you cannot control it or you cannot regulate it. When you say that you cannot stop being angry, it doesn't mean that at this moment, if you are getting anger, then you cannot control it. No, you can control, you can regulate it. But that emotion of being angry, that cannot be completely removed. So it has to be utilized. You use it in the right place.
We have people who are angry all the time, or also there are people who are peaceful, but they both have unfulfilled desires.
Yes, so those who are peaceful, they may be peaceful in front of you. They may not express that anger in front of you, but they are not peaceful inside. Because if desires are unfulfilled, you will also be full of anxiety inside yourself. So externally, they may have an ability to check their anger from demonstration, but internally, they are also full of frustration and anger. Some people have that nature, they are very reserved to show their emotions. So they are very reserved to show any kind of emotion. Even if they are angry, they'll not show to you that they are angry. But that doesn't mean that they are not angry. It's just insight. It has not been expressed. But here it is explained how you can become free of it completely by using it in Krishna's seva.
Also, thank you. Also, I would like to ask, you said that on long term, we cannot change these urges other way than practicing bhakti. But considering that this is a process, and in meantime, we have to function. And if a person has like too much anger in itself, and often people around are suffering, so is it wrong if it takes advices from therapists just to be able to function in the meantime till this process starts to functioning?
Thank you. So good question. So it's like this, that, when your disease is too chronic, then what happens? The doctor will give you 2 levels of medication. One level of medication is, let me bring the disease to a level so that you start functioning normally. Right? And after then you have started functioning normally, then they will change the course of medicine for treatment. So similarly, when we are having any of these problems to a chronic level, then accepting the process of controlling these urges through the bhakti yoga may not help us so much in the beginning. So what we have to do is that we have to then take to some other steps or solutions so that we can come to the level of being a normal human being. And then when we become a normal person, then we can use then the techniques given in the process of Krishna consciousness to further rise. Okay, that's one step. That's how it can be done. The other way to do it is, you can still completely take shelter of the process of bhakti yoga in the beginning itself. That is also possible. It's not that you have to go through that two-step process only. You can just take to Krishna consciousness and through that completely change or modify yourself. But then that helps only when you commit to the process of Krishna consciousness 100%. Which means you intensely apply it in your life. That intensity is required. That intensity is not there, then it will not help us overcome those problems. Yes.
Thank you.
Omapati Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, before I put my question, Prabhuji, the 3 points I remember from what you said. You said non-fulfillment of desires cause anger. And you also said, Prabhuji, that lust and desires are the reasons for anger. And you also said that, if I'm not mistaken, Prabhu, soul cannot be without emotions. Soul will always have emotions, and anger is one of those emotions. Prabhuji, my question, Prabhuji, is when we go around in our daily activities, there are some people who irritate, to the extent of causing anger. And these people could be family, friends, devotees and non-devotees also. I mean, the cause could be they do not improve, repeated mistakes, behavior problems, bad attitude problems. And these people could be, it is understandable if they are family and friends, but a devotee doing such a thing, and a colleague, it is possible to ignore to a certain extent, or a friend, it is possible to ignore to a certain extent. But when it is a devotee and a family, either one or both of them, a family could be a devotee. How do you tackle this situation, and is justified to get angry under such circumstances? And my last thought, Prabhuji, is isn't this a reason or a cause to get angry, Prabhuji?
Yeah. So first question is, when you're around people, the people are there around you who are your family members or relatives, friends, devotees, and their nature makes you get irritated or angry, what to be done in that situation? So It is explained in the scriptures that when you are dealing with people who are around you and you have to deal with them, there's no other way. You are forced to deal with them because you're in such a situation. So you should first of all begin to understand what their nature is. And once you have understood their nature, don't expect that they will change. Means mostly people will remain the way they are. So those who are intelligent people, they accept that this person is like this, will remain like this, and I have to go on like this only with this person. So if you don't do that, you are only creating a problem for yourself. And if you learn to do that, then you are not affected by it. So it's just that we have to begin to accept that this person has come with a certain karma, and that karma is pushing that person to behave in a certain manner. So what can you do, and what can even that person do about it? Right? Actually, those who are not practicing Krishna consciousness, they're very helpless people. And even if someone is practicing Krishna consciousness, but is not a very, very serious practitioner of Krishna consciousness, that person is also quite a helpless person. Why helpless? Because such people are controlled by the three modes. They don't do anything. It's just the three modes which pushes them to do different things. Right? So you have to understand that it's the three modes pushing them. Just like the three modes push me, we also have a specific pattern of behaving, thinking, speaking. Likewise, they also have a specific pattern of behaving, thinking, and speaking. So we have to begin to accept. It's very important. You begin to accept people the way they are and don't expect them to change much. If they change, good, have a celebration. If they don't change, just chill, no problem. That's how the world is. Right? Next question, Danila Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. You said about the controlling the urge to speak. For some, it may be that that the mind speak a lot. The mind is silent, but the mind speak a lot. But how to control it?
Yeah, very good question. For some people, the mind talks a lot. Yes, it is true. So how do you control it? The way to control is simple way as given here. We have to engage our minds in Krishna's seva. Second thing, for people who have a very talkative mind, they can help themselves by doing one simple activity of noting down whatever comes in their mind. And that activity controls the mind to a great extent, channelize the thoughts, the way you are going to think. So have your diary and just keep on writing things, whatever comes to your mind. Let it flow out. There are two ways to do it. Either you find someone who can speak, who can hear your nonsense, but it's difficult to find such people, right? That they will be patiently every day sitting in front of us and listening to all that stupid things that are going into our mind. So rather than then you find a book will continue to hear your nonsense and not speak back. And in that way, then you have channelized them out. You have thrown those things outside. It helps. This is something which is on a very superficial level, but it helps. And as we make advancement in Krishna consciousness, naturally these problems will go away. Right? But initially we can do that. Have a notepad. Okay.
Yes.
Next. Hello.
Yes.
Do you have another question? No. Danila Mataji, another question?
I wanted, in the same question, I wanted to know that when sometimes it happens that we have when we are in difficult situation, maybe at work and all, it happened. We are, I don't know. It happens that we get too much of negativity from others, and mind is start thinking too much about this negative thing. How to control it.
So that's actually, it's true, it happens. Now this also depends on it also, kindly keep your microphone on mute, please. Now it also depends on, you know, the nature you have. You see, men and women body, they are designed differently. So when they have problems related to mind, they have to address those problems differently. For a woman, the easiest way to come out of stress is to talk about it, right? To speak about it. The more you keep it inside you, the more you are going to become miserable. The more you talk about it, the more that stress goes away. So if you don't have someone to talk to, as I mentioned, then you write it down on a diary. But you have to bring it out. That's the way woman body or woman mind deals with stress. No. That's why you should know when there's a lady around you and she's just talking about problems in life, don't take her seriously. You know, it's just her way of dealing with her stress, you know. Now, if you start becoming very serious and then you want to become a hero, now let me solve all her problems. Then after half an hour, she will tell you, why are you taking so much of stress? You know, it's okay, forget it. So you just need to know that's the way the lady mind or the lady body deals with stress. It talks about it. And the more it talks about it, the stress is gone. Then, like, how many of you, Matajis, you have this experience that you are trying to share your problem with someone and you just want that person to hear your problem, not give a solution to you. Right? Just listen to your problem. Not advise you, do this, do that, you know, just listen to you, right? And not tell. But the problem is that as soon as you start talking about your problem to a man, he starts giving you solutions. I told you, you should have done this, you should have done that. And then that doesn't help you to release your stress. Right? So woman has to speak about it and the stress is gone. Or you write about it. That's the way to deal with it. It's a very simple thing. Simple science. Okay. Neha Mataji.
So this is a question about the impulses of the body, like hands. So sometimes we have the impulse to scratch our face or to, I mean, how?
Yes.
How to control that?
That's okay. I mean, if there's a fly sitting on your face, definitely you would like to remove that fly, you know. So there are certain impulses or urges, that's fine. We are talking here about something which will obstruct our growth in Krishna consciousness. We are talking about that, you know. It's not saying that you should completely stop eating, you should completely stop talking, you should completely stop thinking, right? It's about controlling those urges or regulating those urges. Those urges are there, it has a positive side, it has a negative side, right? So nowhere it's mentioned you should completely stop speaking. It is just saying you should control the urge to speak and then utilize it in the right manner. So we have to understand that here we have to remain a normal human being. Basically, these urges are normal and you just have to know how to utilize them in the right way. Next, Alok Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandvat. Prabhu, eating outside is, of course, we should avoid. But let's say if you go longer on business trips, you cannot take too much home food also for longer. Yeah. So then, Prabhu, what is prescribed? You know, how should we regulate?
All right, Prabhuji. Prasadam is always a big topic. Anyway, so it all depends on what we want to, what level of standards we want to practice in our Krishna consciousness. So it's very simple like that. There are different levels at which you can practice Krishna consciousness. So it all depends on what level you want to practice. And to that extent, it will help us. So for some people, they are very austere. They can just manage then to survive on fruits and nuts and, juice and milk and stuff. So they manage, right? But some people, they cannot. Then they can find some alternative, which is not as bad as, eating food that will completely spoil our consciousness, isn't it? So you have to individually see what kind of person you are, what kind of Krishna consciousness you want to practice. But it's possible. There are ways to find out practical solutions always. Somewhere or other, if you can find out something better than what you're already doing, then you should go for it.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, some more questions are there in the chat box. Let me quickly take to that. Then I'll come to you, Varshana, Leela Mataji. Shri Hari Kirtan Prabhu. We make food that we want to eat and offer it to Krishna and then eat it as prasadam. This should also not be done, right? Not that you cannot do such things. You can. But the point is, it should not be every time you cook food, it should be just with that mentality only. Once in a while, yes, you would like to offer that which you like to eat. So you do that. Second thing is that offering bhoga to Krishna, it's for two reasons. One is we don't want to eat sinful food. So we offer the food to Krishna and then honor it as prasadam, right? But if you just do that, then that is not really called devotional service, because it's ultimately done for protecting myself from sinful reaction, right? So the other aspect of offering bhoga is that I want to offer something to Krishna for Krishna's pleasure, isn't it? So what solution I've heard is best solution at our level is, if every day you are preparing 4 meals as per your taste, what you like to eat, make 1 meal as per Krishna's taste also, as an act of devotional service to Krishna. That this is just for you, Krishna. This is what you like to eat. So I'm making it for you. And I'm not making it for myself or my son or my daughter or my husband or my wife or whatever. I'm making it just for you. It's a preparation for you. So that practice can be adopted. You cook it just for Krishna. That this is for your pleasure. And then you can distribute to people who visit your house, your neighbors, your friends, you give it out to someone, that this is Krishna Prasadam, right? So that can be, okay. Next, if you are eating diet food, can it be offered as prasadam to Krishna? Same thing. You eat diet food and then you also cook something which is for Krishna's pleasure and then you distribute. As you mentioned, urge of anger is the kind of urge of mind only. Why then specifically mentioned separately? Could you please explain? Thank you. Good question. So it is specifically explained because Bhakti-sastri Thakur has given 2 categories, that it is an urge of mind only. However, it is for different type. And that's why it is known as urge of anger. It is because of restriction, force, and frustration. So it is coming from mind only, but it's of a different type. So here, instead of mentioning as urge of desire, lust, and urge of anger, what has been said is it's an urge of mind and urge of anger. Mind has been used for the function of desiring or wanting something. So that's the only reason. Next question. If someone is blaspheming a pure devotee or iskcon movement, how should we react? We should get angry. Yes, we should react in that manner. We should not be happy to hear it. We should have those emotions that we are not comfortable by hearing such things. So you be angry about it. If possible, you can express your anger, or you leave that place, and how that person is wrong, then you also express that anger to yourself or to devotees around you, your friends. But you have to react in a manner which is not really like, okay, I'm okay. You are offending someone, I'm okay with that. No, it should be uncomfortable for you to hear such things, right? That's the way to utilize our anger. Anger part is difficult to apply. People may criticize you if you show such. It's something like you criticize others, we have tendency to find faults of others. Sometimes you're confused if you have feelings, anger is normal or not. Especially devotees may judge and don't accept we have such feelings. Yes, so it's a thin borderline between whether you are right to apply it or not right to apply it. So with time, we are going to understand whether when I was angry, was it right or wrong? And then if you understand you are wrong, next time better control and don't be angry, right? So you slowly understand. It's not easy to understand immediately. And sometimes we do mistakes. So don't worry, it's okay. Sometimes we do mistakes and we learn from mistakes. Next question. When we travel to Dham, then what other option we have but to eat in a restaurant? As all the time we may not be close to the temple where prasadam is available. Well, I don't think so. It should be a difficult thing. In Dham, it's very easy to get prasadam. So much of prasadam is there. You can find prasadam in iskcon temple. You can also get prasadam in other temples, which are Lord Vishnu's or Krishna's temple. So it should not be difficult, actually. It's just a matter of having contacts. Then prasadam reaches you everywhere. Salome Mataji. Half-day dry fast today for Bhaktivinoda Thakur disappearance day. How important is it to do this fast? Okay, I don't know. For you, it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur disappearance day today. For us in India, it's tomorrow. But how important is it to do this fast? Very important. We'll study this tomorrow. Prabhupada mentions that fasting is a way to control the urge of the belly. Fasting helps you to control the urge of the belly. So you fast on some specific days like this, holy days. Every food in Vrindavan Dham is Krishna Prasadam. Not really. You cannot be eating kachori on the street and think this is Krishna Prasadam, or whatever you find in Vrindavan. Prasadam means it should be offered to Krishna with love and devotion. That is prasadam. Not that everything is prasadam. All right, so we have to be careful. Is it possible to get the video or audio that Prabhupada spoke in that symposium? I don't know. I just read about it. Last time you mentioned there are 4 sampradayas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave 2 instructions to each. But does that mean all the other sampradayas are incomplete? No, they are not incomplete. They are as much complete as what they need to be, So, and following those sampradayas also, they can go back and back to Godhead. So they are complete, but this is completely complete, right? So it's not that they're incomplete. It's just that in the spiritual world is a big space, and they talk about only a part of it. When it comes to Sri Chaitanya Vaishnavism, then it explains you everything, But they also are qualified to take person back and back to God with the other sampradayas. All right. Is fasting on Ekadashi the process of atonement? If yes, on which level? Jnana Bhakti. It depends on why you are fasting on Ekadashi. If you are fasting on Ekadashi just to get rid of your sins, then it is a karma kand process. If you are fasting on Ekadashi to get bhakti to Krishna, then it is bhakti. So it depends why you fast on Ekadashi. What is the intention, right? So that intention will decide. How can we control our mind when we get zoned out? What does that mean, Mataji? Okay, Brasana Leela Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is a sort of follow-up question from the Uma Mataji, wherein you were explaining that to de-stress sometimes we should talk. As ladies, it's a good way. But very often, Prabhuji, this can also happen that while de-stressing, it's definitely not a very positive talk, and we might end up speaking negative about some third person. So in that case, speaking and listening in the both way. So is it an act of compassion, or we are finally end up doing something again sinful, even if the person is hearing? So
yeah, so you see, it depends on what you're talking. It's not that You should also know, no, how much you can speak and what you can speak. Now, if your talk is about criticism of a devotee and all that, then that should be checked. But otherwise, it's natural for if someone is in a woman body, then that person, as long as she does not go beyond the three modes, she will have these traits of, speaking about her problems and in that way, de-stressing herself, right? So when we have gone beyond the three modes, then we will not be then acting as per our body, right? Then we'll be transcendental. But as long as we are not beyond the three modes, then we'll act as per the nature of our body. Now, what happens is that in Kali Yuga, the situation of people is so bad that even the way they are designed to act on a conditional level, they don't act like that. Right? Even they don't act like that. So even, in general, the material life is very miserable. You're understanding? So at least that they should understand that even material life, you have to live in a particular manner. Then you'll not be so much frustrated in life. And the problem is, even in Kali Yuga, people don't even live material life in a particular manner, because of which their material life is so much full of problems that it becomes a big challenge then to focus on the limbs of bhakti properly. Right. So there's a wrong way of doing sense gratification, then there's a right way of doing sense gratification. And then there is the third thing, becoming transcendental to sense gratification. Now, someone who knows the right way to do sense gratification, for him that or her, the teaching will be transcend sense gratification. But for someone who does not know the right way to do sense gratification, knows the wrong way to do sense gratification, for that person, sometimes you have to first teach, do the right way of sense gratification. And then from that right way of sense gratification, then you transcend sense gratification. You're getting? Like Srila Prabhupada, when he saw boys and girls in America not married and then living together as girlfriends and boyfriends. So what did he teach them? First, you get married, right? You want to live together, and you get married. Okay, this is the right way of living together. A man and woman can live together as a married husband and wife, isn't it? He did not say now you immediately take to sannyas or immediately become renounced. So you are doing things wrongly. You learn to do it right, even in material life. And then when you have learned to do that, then you learn to transcend it. Okay. All right. Thank you. So we stop here. What if I fast on Ekadashi without any intention? Yeah. Then you are a jnani. A jnani means free from desires, no intention. Right? So let's not be like that. Let's be like a devotee. We should do everything for Krishna's pleasure, not without any intention. It should be for Krishna's satisfaction. All right, let's see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.